Next up is a current client of the Government Accountability Project. He's coming in hot from blowing the whistle on the government's child detention practices after President Trump's zero tolerance policy resulted in the expansion of family detention. Dr. Scott Allen, a medical subject matter expert for the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, along with his colleague, Dr. Pamela McPherson, spent 4 years conducting 10 investigations of family detention centers. Horrified by what they saw, they wrote a letter last July to the Senate Whistleblower Caucus detailing the dangerous conditions in which the children in particular, but also their families, were being held, and warning about the lifelong mental and physical harm they would contend with upon their release. Doctors Allen and McPherson also wrote that it was their professional duty to intervene on behalf of those detained and to oppose family detention. They have called on Congress to act immediately and are working with the Government Accountability Project lawyers to keep the ball rolling. Working on health and human rights issues on behalf of vulnerable people is in Dr. Allen's DNA. At the tender age of 17, he spent 4 years in Cambodian refugee camps in Thailand, listening to the stories of victims coming out of the Khmer Rouge killing fields. He has spent years working to stop torture. As medical advisor for the Nobel Peace Prize winning organization Physicians for Human Rights, also known as PHR, he investigated the treatment of Abu Ghraib prisoners and the Bush administration's interrogation program, focusing on the participation of health professionals in interrogations. He was lead medical author of 2 PHR reports, one titled Experiments in Torture and another Aiding Torture. He was also lead researcher for a PHR report on enhanced interrogation techniques. That one was titled Leave No Marks, Enhanced Interrogation Techniques and the Risk of Criminality. Dr. Allen's work for Physicians for Human Rights has also extended to major healthcare organizations like the American Medical Association, the National Commission on Correctional Health Care, and the American Psychological Association, working to stop health professionals from engaging in illegal and unethical practices. Before joining PHR, Dr. Allen was a full-time correctional physician for the Rhode Island Department of Corrections, and while working there, also served as state medical director. He has published more than 25 peer-reviewed papers in academic journals on prison health care. He has consulted on detention health issues, both domestically and internationally, for the Open Society Institute and the International Committee of the Red Cross, among others. He co-founded and co-directs the Center for Prisoner Health and Human Rights at Brown University and is a co-investigator for the University of California Criminal Justice and Health Consortium. He is the founder and medical director of the Access Clinic, a primary care medical home to adults with developmental disabilities, and he is a professor emeritus of medicine at the University of California, Riverside. So if all that doesn't make you feel like a slacker, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this amazing person, Dr. Scott Allen.
I wish I had recorded that. Thank you. That was very kind. Listen, let me say, as someone who doesn't really even feel like he has the right to be in this room, let alone seated at the table where I have been seated, I have just joined this whistleblower club, and things are all very fresh. I am very humbled to be among your company and very honored. And thank you for mentioning Dr. Pam McPherson, my colleague, who walked this walk with me, who could not be with us here tonight, but has texted me every 5 minutes from Louisiana words of encouragement. And I also, before I make some general remarks, want to thank the Democracy Fund, who has been critically important in supporting the work that I've done with Government Accountability Project. Now, yes. Michael's quote begins, "I never thought of myself as a whistleblower." And that's something actually in my short time as a whistleblower I've heard other whistleblowers say. 6 months ago, I had never heard or thought much about the Government Accountability Project. But then I watched, as we all did, in horror as the news reports came of the new policy of zero tolerance that led to the policy of tearing children from their mothers. That was something that did not require my expertise. America generally understood that was horrifying. And I, too, was horrified to watch this. But Dr. McPherson and I were also horrified to hear on the heels of that the plans to rapidly and significantly expand family detention. For we knew that the small family detention program that had existed for about 4 years was plagued with problems, and children were being seriously harmed by the existing program. Now, as physicians, we have a code of ethics. And the ethics on this one were not complicated. As physicians, we have an affirmative duty to intervene when we feel there is an imminent threat of harm to anyone, but particularly to vulnerable children. But while the ethics were clear to us, how to intervene to protect was not at all clear to us. I reached out to some of my colleagues in the NGO community and asked for their advice on how I might proceed, and very quickly I learned about the Government Accountability Project. And very quickly I was talking to Louis Clark. It's amazing to me how quickly and efficiently his team jumped into action, quickly educated Dr. McPherson and myself about the Whistleblower Protection Act, our rights and responsibilities, and crafted a very well thought out plan of attack. On the good recommendation of colleagues, I expected to find the high level of legal expertise that I found. But what I wasn't expecting is the comprehensive level of support, both emotional and strategic. And let me say something about the emotional support. Dr. McPherson is a psychiatrist. I am a general internist. We are professionally trained to hold your hand when you are facing some of the most difficult crises of your life and provide counsel and comfort. I don't expect that from lawyers. But let me tell you, that human touch, this mission-driven crew at Government Accountability Project was a blessing. And I cannot express my gratitude strongly enough. I could not have done, and Dr. McPherson, if she were here today, would say she could not have done what we have done so far without that kind of support. As the story goes, we are still early on in our process. We made our disclosures about the known harms to families and their children. With the assistance of the Government Accountability Project, we were able to enlist the support of the medical community. With Dana's able assistance, we got 14 national medical associations, including the American Medical Association, American College of Physicians, American Academy of Pediatrics, American Nursing Association, on, up to 14, to support our position that family detention has to end. I can't remember the last time 14 medical organizations agreed on anything except fighting to cut payments for doctors. So it was quite an accomplishment. So all this sounds like success, rather rapid and early success, and so far I'm still retained as an expert by Department of Homeland Security, as is Dr. McPherson. So if I just stop the story there, it sounds like a success story. And from the standpoint of did Government Accountability Project do everything I needed them to do, far and above and exceeded. But what every whistleblower in this room understands, and all of the experts and staff at Government Accountability Project understand, is that this was never the goal, simply to make a statement. Tom Devine frequently asks, are you trying to make a statement, or do you really want to make a difference? A very provocative question, and my answer to him was, no, we're trying to protect children here. I need to make a difference. So why, when the medical community has spoken with a unanimous voice, has there been no response by the government at all? When the issue is imminent threat of harm to innocent children. I think it's just one more example of the like that we've been hearing tonight about the very difficult times that we live in. And let's not forget, this is David versus Goliath. This is a small and plucky organization that does amazing work. And whistleblowers are a small, and I would wish, growing group, but it's David versus Goliath. Am I discouraged by that? Sometimes. But at the end of the day, I think everyone in the room feels a tremendous obligation to shine the light on injustice and on the lies our government will tell to justify its actions. Because as a country and as a people, how we care for the most vulnerable among us really reveals who we are. And as far as I'm concerned, if our government right now will willingly and knowingly traumatize children to make a political point while justifying it with a lie that we have to do it and that it is to protect us, then I will shine the light on that lie until the government is shamed into backing off that practice. But I cannot emphasize enough, I could not have taken the first step without this stellar team and staff at the Government Accountability Project, and I will be eternally in their debt. Thank you very much.